Hi legends, welcome back to Hellmouth Hotline. I'm your host, Rodney Stewart, and Friday night, as promised, maybe a little bit later than normal. I intend to throw these up at around about 9pm GMT. So if you're interested in the show, that's when it'll be available. Maybe biting off more than I can chew here, but from next week on, we're going to be going 3 days a week of the show. So if you're interested in the Buffyverse, we'll be continuing the Buffy reviews on Monday nights, and we've got to the point now where the Angel spin-off show started off, so we're going to be doing that on a Wednesday night, and then we'll be continuing with the horror movies and that on a Friday night. So we're getting into Halloween 2 in this episode from 1981, and yes, I don't recall this movie at all, and unlike the first one, the biggest gripe I would have had with the first one was, for a slasher movie, there was a severe lack of actual murders going on in the movie, and this movie makes up for it in spades, has to be said. Essentially, this movie picks up right after where the first movie finished off. Michael Myers has been shot by Dr. Loomis, and yes, has survived and escaped. Now, listen to that there. I don't know if the microphone picked that up, but there's a head kiss, and one of those cars just drove past the house that has one of these bored out exhaust pipes on it, and it's making that much noise that it should really be going about 120 mile an hour, but he's going about 45. So it is what it is. That's Northern Ireland at its finest. Right, back to the movie. So this one here, as I say, Michael Myers has survived the gunshots from Dr. Loomis at the end of the first film, and literally picks up exactly where the movie left off, the first one, and he's escaped. He's on not so much the run, he's not going to run anywhere. He's got his own agenda, and all he wants to do is get hold of Laurie once more in this movie. And yeah, for some weird reason, she's the last person that anybody expects him to be going after in this movie, whereas Loomis should have been on the ball from the word go. But as far as storytelling goes, that'll wrap things up far too quick. So she's taken away in an ambulance to the local hospital to get her wounds tended to, and Dr. Loomis starts on a search again along with the sheriff. Where are we? Yeah, Michael Myers is going through the town, and he steals a kitchen knife from an elderly couple and kills a young girl next door. And yes, as I say, Loomis, he's on the prowl again with the sheriff, and he mistakes this kid that turns out to be a guy called Ben Tramer, but he's wearing a similar sort of get-up to Michael Myers. Of course, Michael got the mask and everything from a local shop, so it's not out of the realm of possibility that somebody else will be wearing the exact same mask and a similar sort of setup. So they're trying to chase this kid down, and he actually gets killed by a police car on the street, and he's wedged between it and like a van, and there's an explosion, and he burns to death. Now, fairly graphically too, I have to say, it was very well done, and yes, as I say, the kill count is up in this movie in a major way. So the sheriff learns that the girl that was killed, one of the girls that was killed, was Annie, his daughter, and he blames Loomis for letting Michael out, but Loomis is like, I didn't want to let him out, it went over my head, blah blah blah. So the sheriff leaves to go and comfort his wife, pass the news on for somebody else does, or she finds out about it in the news, and he leaves Deputy hunt to take his place. Back at the hospital, there's a paramedic, Jimmy. He has an attraction to Laurie, and he's constantly in and out of her room, checking her out, chatting and getting on. But the head nurse, Virginia, limits the time he spends with her. And after hearing a news flash revealing Laurie's location, Michael makes his way to the hospital, where he cuts the phone lines, slashes the car tires so no one can escape, and starts wandering the halls in search of Laurie. And he's just, anybody that comes across his path in this movie gets taken out in short form. First being a security guard is killed. The doctor, several nurses to say the very least, throughout the night. In Laurie's hospital room, she dreams about the time she learned she was adopted, and remembers she once visited a young Michael in a sanitarium. Jimmy and nurse Franco search the hospital for Laurie, who's trying to evade Michael. She gets out of the room and she tries to run for it again. Now, I do have to say, in the sequel, I was kind of hoping for a lot more out of Laurie, Jamie Lee Curtis's character, but we pretty much get essentially the entire film on her perspective as scared and running. Just the closing moments of the last movie, that just continues on for her character in this movie. So I think for me, that was probably the biggest letdown of this film. And I thought you would have pushed her character a little bit further in this one, but it is what it is. And right now I'm at a loss. I can't recall this movie at all, and like I just have flashes of some of the later movies, but I'm just going to be very interested to find out as we go ahead. Back in the hospital, Jimmy, he finds the body of the head nurse, and she pretty much just got her blood drained by Michael. He put I was going to say an RV, but would that even be the name for it? It's just like, you open up a vein to take blood samples, and he just opens up her vein and just lets her bleed out, essentially, and he slips and falls, knocking himself unconscious in her blood, and gives himself a concussion. My notes just went blank on me. Meanwhile, the police are informed that Michael broke into a local elementary school earlier that night. Loomis, he goes off to check out what's going on. His colleague, Marion Chambers, arrives to escort him back to Smith's Grove on the governor's orders and under the enforcement of a U.S. Marshal. But on the way, she lets him know that Laurie is indeed Michael's younger sister. This is news to him. He didn't know there was sealed files to protect the family, and that's only been released now. So she passes this news on to him. He's in the back of a police car. There's a U.S. Marshal there taking him out of the town, heading back to where he came from. And yes, when Laurie's parents when they died, she was adopted, and to protect her and the family, these files were kept private. But this is something that Dr. Loomis said, it's throughout the whole time he was the doctor over Michael Myers. He just he says in some ways he was like the model patient. He sat there, he didn't cause any trouble, he didn't even move, speak, you name it. And he just was there waiting. And when he did make his escape attempt, nobody was expecting it, and just how he did it, because it was just something they weren't expecting to happen. So he has been, this entire time, after killing the one sister, as we've seen at the beginning of the first film, whenever he was a child, he's been waiting all these years to take out the second sister. So realising that, and been told she was brought to Haddonsfield Memorial Hospital, Loomis forces the marshal at gunpoint to drive back to Haddonfield. Jill, the nurse, finally finds Laurie, only to be killed by Michael, who then pursues Laurie through the hospital. She manages to escape into the parking lot and hides in a car. And Jimmy, the guy that had the crush on her, he arrives shortly thereafter, gets into the car and tries to drive to safety, but passes out again. And passes out, head on the steering wheel. The horn goes off, so she's freaking out that Michael might have heard this. The stalking that Michael does on Laurie in this movie is it is tense. It's well directed. It's well shot and paced nicely. So she just got out by the skin of her teeth, basically. Where are we at right now? I have lost my place in my notes. As per usual, this is going to be an ongoing thing, guys, so please get used to it. If you're here for a professional podcast, you're not going to get it just now. I'm not good enough. I may get good enough, but right now, I'm not good enough. So Laurie, worrying that the sound of this horn is going to attract Michael's attention, tries to get out of the car only to see Loomis and his colleague Marion and the marshal reach the hospital just in time to save Laurie. She's trying to catch up to them, and Michael pops up in the car park, and they let her into the hospital and try and close the doors and keep him out, and he just walks right through the glass, smash, into the hospital. So again, we're at the face-off between Loomis and Michael Myers at the end of this film again. We're coming up close to the end of the film, and he empties his gun onto him again, and Michael goes down, and the US Marshal deputy, he goes to check the body, but Loomis is screaming at him, like, don't go near him, he's not dead. Loomis is really painting him up to be some sort of supernatural figure in this movie. Rightly so. At this point in the movie, he has shot Michael probably 12 times at this stage, and he's still going. He wasn't wrong. Loomis wasn't wrong when the marshal leans over the body. Michael pops up with a scalpel in his hand and slits the guy's throat. So at this point, the colleague of Loomis has been sent out to the police car to call for help, and we get a final chase in the hospital, and they get hunted down fairly quickly by Michael in this operating theatre sort of set-up area, whatever you want to call it, and there's all these oxygen tanks around the room, and they fight for a bit. Dr. Loomis gets stabbed in the stomach by the scalpel. He slipped a gun to Laurie just prior to this fight, and she's cowering in the corner. And as Michael Myers goes to go for her, she calls him by name, and he stops dead for a second. He sort of tilts the head. It's like, I want to kill this girl, but she kind of knows me. That's right. It's hard to know what's going through his mind at this point. But that's only a fleeting thing, because he straightens back up again. He's going to continue his attack, and she pulls the gun on him, shoots him twice in the head, and takes out his eyes, essentially. So at this point, he's still not down. He's been shot, probably 12 times in the body, and now he's been shot twice in the head. He can't see, but he's slashing for all he's worth to try and get someone. So while he's doing that, Loomis, he starts to open up the oxygen tanks and spray out the oxygen into the air. Laurie realises what's going on here, so she does the same on the other side of the room. So all these oxygen tanks is blasting out. Michael's in the centre of the room, slashing and getting on. And Loomis tells Laurie to get out, and she runs, And Loomis looks at Michael and he says, like, okay, Michael, it's time. And he takes a lighter out of his pocket and ignites it, and the whole room explodes. Laurie gets out in the hallway, gets knocked down, and you see this doorway with nothing but flames in there. It's just a fireball. And then, of course, and another, like, these movies are kind of standard issue. Once you think the kill shot has came for the villain, it's probably not. They do it a second time in this film. You'd be forgiven for thinking whenever Loomis filled him full of bullets at the doorway to the hospital, that would have been the first comeback. But they do it one last time in the film, and he walks out of the room in fire, and he does fall to the ground and seemingly dead. So basically, at the end of this film, it's Laurie's carted off in another ambulance while the police are there cleaning up the aftermath of all these murders. So yeah, that's where it just kind of closes off. You see a shot of her in the back of the ambulance, and then we cut back to a shot of Michael on the floor on fire with the mask burning up. So yeah, for me, I enjoyed this film quite a bit. As I say, there's only a few little nitpicking things I have against it. That would be Jamie Lee Curtis's character, I think, could have had, or should have had, a heck of a lot more to do in this movie instead of just an extended scare fest of what the first film was. And yes, this was directed by Jim Rosenthal, if I'm saying that name properly, as directorial debut, and it was written and produced by John Carpenter and Deborah Hull, and of course Jamie Lee Curtis and Donald Pleasance star in it. Yeah. What have we got as far as money and that goes? Let me see now. It had a budget of $2.5 million, and at the box office it brought back $25.5 million, and that's North America alone. So worldwide, goodness knows. So I just, when these movies were coming out, they were, everybody was into them. Everybody likes a scare, and yes, you could be guaranteed a slasher movie back then was definitely a big draw at the cinemas. What else we got here? Though Carpenter directed a good portion of the film and wrote the screenplay for the sequel, Carpenter realistically could not direct the entire film in time due to directing his other film in that time frame. Appointed the direction of Rosenthal. Filming took place the spring of 1981, primarily at Morningside Hospital in Los Angeles, California. Again, on a budget of $2.5 million. Halloween 2 reproduces certain key elements that made the original Halloween a success, such as the first-person camera perspectives, and was intended at the time to finish the story of Michael Myers and Laurie Strode. It also introduced the plot twist of Laurie being the sister of Michael Myers, an element that would form the narrative arc of the series and subsequent movies after Halloween 2, including Rob Zombie's remake and that one's sequel. But it was dropped from the series canon from the 2018 film onwards. Halloween 2, distributed by Universal Pictures, premiered in the United States October 30th, 1981. The film was a huge box office success, grossing over $25 million domestically alone. It received mixed reviews from critics, with praise directed towards its performances and atmosphere. I agree with that 100%. It's a great, just the way this movie is shot, It's beautiful. The way it's directed and acted, everybody involved did a fantastic job on it. But I don't know what the critics had to say as a negative towards the movie, but I'm pretty sure it's probably the Laurie character. Yeah, I think it was a wasted opportunity to just have her play the same thing over and over again. But it is what it is. It's Halloween cheesy goodness from the 80s. And, tough to beat. So that's going to do it for this episode, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. And please come back, check out the show. Hopefully I can keep this regular upload schedule going over the next few weeks, to say the least. It's crazy times at the moment. But trying my hardest to find the time to get it done. But again, it is what it is. Guys, whatever you're doing, I hope you're doing it safe. And until the next episode, stay safe, and I will talk to you all then. This has been a production of Coins Age Media. Thank you so much for listening.